Next up, we got Rose. This is directed by Aurelie Sada. I think it's the best I can do with the names. And the main person you need to know, there's a whole bunch of people in here that are good. And I could go through the list of all the actors. Go to IMDb, you can look it up. Although, take point, look for a Rose made in 2021 because apparently this has been shelved or maybe got a slight European release and hasn't made it to America till now. So if you look at, there's a lot of films named Rose. That's not helpful in finding the right one. So Aurélie Sada is the director, and then Rose is played by Françoise Fabian. Françoise Fabian now has, in the filming of this movie, looks like she has to be in maybe her 70s. I kind of looked at her IMDb, and she's a pretty famous French actress by all accounts. I'm not a huge spring of knowledge of French actors and actresses and kind of their work, but I did see among her credits Belle de Jour. So she must have been a side character in Belle de Jour. This basically takes it's kind of a French family drama, comedy drama. So you have this Jewish family. It starts out at a wedding, and you find out very quickly. You're just kind of following around the party, like all these different people, and kind of meeting all these different characters. The children, there's a couple sons and a daughter of Rose and her husband. You find out very quickly that Rose's husband, the dad of these kids, these all adult kids, by the way, at the wedding, they're all probably in their 40s and so on, 30s, 40s. Has been diagnosed with cancer and he's pretty far along. You have this whole opening sequence. It's about 10 minutes or so, and kind of meeting everybody and getting the idea of kind of the characters and their different characteristics of the different people, and then that he is also not in good shape. So then your next scene cuts and he has passed away. You don't know how much time has passed, but it feels like maybe a few months, not very long, probably. You were basically at was it the Shiva, I think it is, where you sit in mourning at the house, and they have the father's body in a room with candles, and it's covered, and people basically sit, and different family members show up and stay there for a certain period of time in mourning over the death. That was like the first two scenes. You have this wedding and you have this death. And during all of that, you're meeting Rose a little bit, and she's just kind of, you can tell she's kind of reserved, and she's kind of the matriarch of the family, and she's obviously sad and stuff during the Shiva, but she is, I hope I'm wrong about the Shiva, or not wrong about the Shiva. If I am, sorry if I'm using the wrong term there. Just to say mourning, the period of mourning. And during the period of mourning, she's sad, but she's also trying to make sure everything's done right and taking care of everybody and all that kind of stuff. And once again, just like the wedding, you're meeting the various children she has. She has a daughter who's undergone a divorce and seems to be kind of finding her way. She's got another son who's a doctor, and he seems to be the most devoutly religious in the Jewish faith, and he's really kind of making sure that all the stuff is done right, and the rabbi's showing up and all this kind of stuff. Definitely his own little world. And she has another son, and he is kind of the troubled son of the group. He's got some law issues coming up, a court case coming up, and he seems to be living with her currently, living with his parents. So he's kind of the son, the black sheep, the one that's, not really doing so well in his life, and they're kind of helping him out, it seems like. That's kind of the basic setup you get. And after those first two rounds, I was thinking to myself, like, oh, this is going to be kind of a well done, serious family drama. But after those first two acts, it takes a turn, and the turn is great. Basically, she is just kind of staying in her house, obviously depressed, obviously, post having this death of her husband after, I don't think they said how many years, but I think that a lot of years, 30 years, 40 years, they've been together their whole lives, and she looks to be adrift. Her kids are worried about her. She's not leaving the house. They're like complaining that she's not even taking care of herself and bathing herself. They're really concerned for her. And her daughter eventually comes over one day. Her daughter convinces her to get dressed up and go out to a dinner party with her, really just to try to get her mom out of her shell. And the whole time you're thinking, like the daughter, you're thinking like, boy, this is not going well for her. It's going to be a really dreary family drama. But at this party, there's like a spark for Rose. She meets another older lady there who's just kind of one of those people that just comes and holds court with her stories of her life and is just kind of crazy. And she's talking about being with younger men, and she's talking about, she starts, has a guy roll a joint for her at the party and pass it around, and it gets to Rose, or actually it gets to Rose's daughter. Rose's daughter passes it past her mom, thinking like, well, my mom's never going to do this. I don't want this is my mom. I'm not my mom smoking marijuana, that kind of a thing. And then Rose takes it and tries it and has a good time. And then she kind of starts coming out of her shell a little bit at the party, and she kind of starts telling stories a little bit. And you kind of see the mental wheels turning for Rose And from that point forward, the movie basically becomes Rose kind of turning the corner on the morning. And instead of seeing it as like her life is over, her husband is dead, her kids are gone pretty much. She has no purpose in life, one of those kind of movies. It's kind of like you see her recognizing that she has been invisible and is kind of invisible, especially as an older woman in society. She's kind of invisible. And she's like, you could see she's kind of like, I need to figure out who I am now. Like maybe just throw caution to the wind and start living life. And why am I giving up? And that kind of becomes the rest of the movie. And it I really is a joy. This movie is wonderful. It is not going to be a rollicking comedy. Like I said, it's more of a comedy drama, but she is done so well, the way she's portrayed, and you are so interested in what she's going to do and rooting for her. And it builds up interrelationships with just kind of passerbys and her children as the movie goes on, and those stories kind of come back around, and just watching her come out of her shell, it kind of becomes the point of the movie, and you really end up feeling like you're rooting for her and just wondering how this is going to play out for her. Is it going to crash and burn? Is she going to become a new person? Like, what's going to happen to her? And I just found myself really, really engaged with her, and really her performance is fantastic. I had mentioned to Greg offline that this feels to me like Woody Allen in his heyday was making these movies like Hannah and Her Sisters and all these kind of beloved, dramatic mostly, with a little bit of comedy, but mostly drama, like family, interrelated, like friends and family movies where you just had super rich characters. You understood their motives, but really, as opposed to like really plot heavy movies, they were really just getting to know these characters and watching their kind of ups and downs and how they interacted with the world, and that's what made them fantastic. Of course, they had that kind of Woody Allen writing, which was way more kind of quirky and neurotic, but this feels kind of like in the same ballpark as those movies, which I think is a compliment. Say what you want about the man, but he was making great movies in those days. This movie really, if you kind of like that vibe of that era of Woody Allen, I think this movie might kind of scratch that itch. It's quite good. I'm surprised it was been shelved for so long. Probably because it's just hard to sell this. This is not a kind of movie that goes and does gangbuster money anywhere. And then you add on to that it's French. You know, who in America is going to be watching this other than the super art house crowd? But hopefully this will find an audience maybe as it comes into streaming. It's one of those movies that also just kind of unassuming, but unassumingly pretty great. I'm kind of going between 4 and 4.5. I'm going to go 4.5. I think this movie is really, really, really good. And that's Rose.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. For more movie and television reviews and interviews, please subscribe to my Deepest Dream channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And as always, thanks so much for your support. Take care.